Coffer here for Uke Jams, and this is our virtual jam number 6. And for all my friends at the Facebook page for music from 1900 to 1950, I've put together another set of all Tin Pan Alley classic songs. All Tin Pan Alley songs. I won't say they're classics. In fact, I would go so far as to venture to guess that there's probably 3 songs at a minimum in here that you've probably never come across before. People at my weekly Uke Jams are used to running across songs they haven't heard before, but this is all Tin Pan Alley, New York, 1900, 1950 songs, with one exception, which I'll talk about when we get there. Accentuate the Positive by Harold Arlen, Johnny Mercer. Harold Arlen, one of my favorite composers of all time. A couple notes here. We've got some 1-beat chords here with the A5 augmented. And then we've got a D augmented. And the book shows you this bottom string, the A string, on the 1st fret. And I find that a fairly unplayable chord. So what I do is I play the bar D, the 2nd position D, and then I just have to drop this finger down here on the 3rd fret top string. That's how that little run goes at the start. If you want to play all D's for that first line up here, feel free. Okay, accentuate the positive. I'm going to do an intro starting with this E minor 7 down here. You got to accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch on to the affirmative, don't mess with Mr. In Between. You got to spread joy up to the maximum, bring gloom down to the minimum, have faith of pandemonium's liable to walk upon the sea. To illustrate my last remark, Jonah in the whale, Noah in the ark. What did they do just when everything looked so dark? Man, they said you got to accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch on to the affirmative, don't mess with Mr. In Between. To illustrate my last remark, Jonah in the whale, Noah in the ark. What did they do just when everything looked so dark? Man, they said you got to accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch on to the affirmative, don't mess with Mr. In Between. Didn't really have time to warn you there. We'd go back to the bridge, but you can assume on these jazz classics that that's the map we're always going to take. Okay, a song that everybody in my Uke Jams in real life group is used to me doing because it's such a fun song, is After You Get What You Want, You Don't Want It by Irving Berlin. This is from 1920. We've got some unusual chords here, another augmented chord. But again, you can pause the video, rewind the video, do whatever you need to pick up those chords, so I don't want to take a lot of time going over them for people who might already know them. And let's see how this goes. Listen to me, honey dear, something's wrong with you, I fear. It's getting harder to please you, harder and harder each year. I don't want to make you blue, but you need a talking to, like a lot of people I know. Here's what's wrong with you. Now, we're all going through this COVID-19 shut-in or social distancing or whatever it's called where you are. And, some people that you haven't spent 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with might be, some of their little idiosyncrasies might be rising to the surface perhaps and be a little irritating. And I found in my personal life with my wife, as an example, when I need to give her a little pointer to push her in the right direction, nothing works better to start the conversation than what Irving Berlin has told us. Like a lot of people I know, here's what's wrong with you. So I suggest you try that in your life with your family or your loved ones, whoever it is you might be spending a lot of time with in these unusual days. Like a lot of people I know, here's what's wrong with you. After you get what you want, you don't want it. If I gave you the moon, you'd grow tired of it soon. You're like a baby, you want what you want when you want it. But after you are presented with what you want, you're discontented. You're always wishing and wanting for something. When you get what you want, you don't want what you get. And though you sit upon my knee, you'll grow tired of me. 'Cause after you get what you want, you don't want what you wanted at all. Don't you say that I'm unkind. Think it over and you'll find you've got a changeable nature. You're always changing your mind. There's a longing in your eye that is hard to satisfy. You're unhappy most of the time. Here's the reason why. After you get what you want, you don't want it. If I gave you the moon, you grow tired of it soon. You're like a baby, you want what you want when you want it. But after you are presented with what you want, you're discontented. You're always wishing and wanting for something. When you get what you want, you don't want what you get. And though you sit upon my knee, you'll grow tired of me. 'Cause after you get what you want, you don't want what you want. Don't want what you want. Don't want what you wanted at all. Irving Berlin, a man wise beyond his years at the relatively early point in his career of 1920. Here's one of Irving Berlin's earliest hits. Alexander's Ragtime Band is certainly one of his biggest, and we're going to do both the verses here. We've got a verse here, and then everything in the middle is the chorus, which is what all of us are familiar with. I don't have any chord diagrams on here, not sure how that happened. We've got a G diminished, which is that one down there, and we've got a D diminished, which is on the first fret. And of course we remember that if you want to play D diminished and you don't remember where it is, play a diminished chord shape, because they're all the same, until you find that one of your fingers is resting on a D. So this finger's a D, so that's my D diminished 7. Here we have a G, so that must be a G diminished 7. So if you're left without chord diagrams and you need a diminished chord, that's one way to find them, is that one of the notes will always be under your fingers for the name of the chord. Here we go. Oh my honey, better hurry and let's meander. Ain't you going to the leader man, ragged meter man? Oh my honey, let me take you to Alexander's grandstand brass band. Ain't you coming along? Come on in here, Alexander's Ragtime Band. Come on in here, it's the best band in the land. They can play a bugle call like you never heard before, so natural that you wanna go to war. That's just the best bestest band. What am I, honey lamb? Come on along, come on along. Let me take you by the hand. Up to the man, up to the man, who's the leader of the band. And if you can't hear that Swanee River played in ragtime, come on and hear, come on and hear Alexander's Ragtime Band. Oh my honey, there's a fiddle with notes that screeches like a chicken, like a chicken. And the clarinet is a colored pet. Come and listen to a classical band. What's peaches? Come now, somehow, better hurry along. Come on and hear, come on and hear Alexander's Ragtime Band. Come on and hear, come on and hear. It's the best band in the land. They can play a bugle call like you never heard before. So natural that you wanna go to war. That's just the bestest band. What am I, honey lamb? Come on along, come on along. Let me take you by the hand. Up to the man, up to the man, who's the leader of the band. And if you can't hear that Swanee River played in ragtime, come on and hear, come on and hear Alexander's Ragtime Band. Let's see what we have next. All right, this is one of those songs I'm thinking not many people know. From 1923, Barney Google. The comic strip Barney Google debuted in 1919, so this is 4 years after. And if you look at the Wikipedia page for Barney Google, you'll see an interesting timeline of the origin of the word Google as it applies to Barney Google and how that came to be associated with the company Google. So it's kind of a fun little read there on Wikipedia that I would suggest you go to. We've got a little bit of unusual construction here. Sing 2 choruses after each verse. So we've got verse 1, verse 2, and verse 3. And then we have 6 choruses, and all 6 choruses start with this line, and all 6 choruses end with this bottom line here. And in between, we have chorus 1, chorus 2, etc. After each verse, we're going to sing 2 choruses. Verse 2, chorus 3 and 4, verse 3, chorus 5 and 6. Okay, here we go. Barney Google. Who's the most important man this country ever knew? Who's the man our presidents all tell their troubles to? Well, it isn't Mr. Bryan, and it isn't Mr. Hughes. I've got a hunch that to this bunch I'm going to introduce Barney Google with the googly eyes. Barney Google had a wife 3 times his size. She sued Barney for divorce. Now he's living with his horse. Oh, Barney Google with the googly eyes. Barney Google with the googly eyes. Second chorus. Barney Google bet his horse would win the prize. When the horses ran that day, Sparkplug ran the other way. Oh, Barney Google with the googly eyes. Who's the greatest lover that this country ever knew? And who's the man that Valentino takes his hat off to? No, it isn't Douglas Fairbanks that the ladies rave about. When he arrives, who makes the wives chase all their husbands out? Well, it's Barney Google with the googly eyes. Barney Google is the guy who never buys. Women take him out to dine, then he steals the waiter's dime. Oh, Barney Google with the googly eyes. Fourth chorus. Barney Google with the googly eyes. Barney Google is the luckiest of guys. If he fell into the mud, he'd come up with a diamond stud. Oh, Barney Google with the googly eyes. Who's the greatest fire chief this country ever saw? Who's the man who loves to hear the blazing buildings roar? Anytime the house is burning and the flames leap all about, say, tell me, who goes ka-choo and puts the fire out? Well, it's Barney Google with the googly eyes. Number 5, Barney Google thought his horse would win the prize. He got odds of 10 to 8. Sparkplug came in 3 days late. Oh, Barney Google with the googly eyes. Barney Google with the googly eyes. Barney Google tried to enter paradise. When St. Peter saw his face, he said, go to that other place. So Barney Google with the googly eyes. All right, Barney Google, there you go. A lot of fun. Billy Rose did a lot of singing, did a lot of recording as well. Here we go, Bill Bailey. Now, when I play these old Tin Pan Alley songs that people only know the choruses to, I like to do the verses. A lot of times the verses are quite good and they're interesting, and as I've said before, often if you're at a live performance at a old folks home or a street fair or something of that nature, and you play one of these Tin Pan Alleys and you only play the chorus, you've got maybe 15 or 20 seconds of music, and then you play it through a second time, so you're 30 or 40 seconds in and the song's over. Maybe throw in a kazoo version just to keep it a little longer. And you can fix all that just by adding the verses. Well, I put this verse in more for educational purposes than otherwise. It's very misogynistic. Her husband beat her up, so she threw him out, and he's frankly a dandy, a ladies' man, and now she's begging him to come home. So it's a little bit misogynistic, but more than that, because you can work within the times for a given song. More than that, the verses are just bad. Melodically, they're just bad. They're boring. So this is more, here's the song. Isn't it interesting? If you haven't heard it before, I think you'll appreciate it. Whether you choose to add these verses to your performances is another matter altogether. These whole first verses, this whole first 2 lines, nothing but G. One of the reasons it's not very interesting. Just nothing but G. On one summer's day, sun was shining fine. The lady love of old Bill Bailey was hanging clothes on the line in her backyard and weeping hard. She married a B&O brakeman that took and throwed her down, bellowing like a prune-fed calf with a big gang hanging round. Into that crowd she yelled out aloud, won't you come home, Bill Bailey, won't you come home? I'm on the whole night long. I'll do the cooking, honey, I'll pay the rent. I know I done you wrong. Remember that rainy evening I drove you out with nothing but a fine-tooth comb. Yes, I know I'm to blame, well, ain't that a shame? Bill Bailey, won't you please come home? Bill drove by that door in an automobile, a great big diamond coach and footman. Hear that big wench squeal, he's all alone. I heard her groan. She hollered through that door, Bill Bailey, is you sore? Stop a minute, oh, won't you listen to me? Won't I see you no more? Bill winked his eye as he heard her cry. Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home? I'm on the whole night long. I'll do the cooking, honey, I'll pay the rent. I know I done you wrong. Remember the rainy think it's kind of interesting. He was such a swell, such a man about town, that in 1902 he was driving by in an automobile. Quite the man about town. All right, here's another great Harold Arlen tune. I think we're all the way up to 1941 here. And something to know in my chord charts, I use the 9 as for G9, and in standard musical chord notation, that's a G7 9. So it's the dominant chord, so it's a G7 with the 9 added. And for reasons I don't understand, my chord font shows it as a G7 sharp 9. I don't know what the sharp 9, it should just be a plus 9 or an add 9. If we look, this is a G chord, and the top note here is an A. So that's the 9th, not a 9 sharp. So I don't know exactly. I'm not a musical theory person. I don't understand. But I do know that when you see a G9, it means use the dominant form, which is a G7. Otherwise, it would be a G major 9. So just be aware when you see a 9 chord, and then you're looking for it over here in my chord charts, it'll be a G7 sharp 9 is how it'll be indicated. Not really sure if that makes total sense, but just if you're aware of it, it'll all work out in the end. My mama done told me when I was in knee pain. My mama done told me, son, a woman will sweet talk and give you the big eye, and when that sweet talking's done, a woman's a two-face, a worrisome thing who'll leave you to sing the blues in the night. Now the rains are falling, hear the train a-calling, hoo-wee. My mama done told me, hear that lonesome whistle blowing across the trestle, hoo-wee. My mama done told me, hoo-wee, da hoo-wee, oh clickety-clacks echoing back the blues in the night. From Natchez to Mobile, from Memphis to St. Joe, wherever the four winds blow. I've been in some big towns and heard me some big talk, and there is one thing I know. A woman's a two-face, a worrisome thing who'll leave you to sing the blues in the night. I noticed as I was playing this, F is a mistake. It should be a D, a typo. Not sure why that's in there. And this song, of course, A Woman's a Two-Face. When you look at the recording history of this song, it's been recorded equally by men and women. Of course, they just changed the gender. And a man's a two-face. So equal opportunity. Insult there. All right, here's one I don't think needs any introduction. From 1941, Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy. And this is kind of the way the Andrews Sisters did it in 41 as opposed to Bette Midler's version, but they're pretty close to the same. So. He was a famous trumpet man from out Chicago way. He had a boogie sound that no one else could play. He was the top man in his craft, but then his number came up and he was gone with the draft. He's in the army now, a blowing reveille. He's the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company B. They made him blow a bugle for his Uncle Sam. It really brought him down because he couldn't jam. The captain seemed to understand, because the next day the cap went out and drafted the band. And now the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company B. A root, a toot, a tootly out a toot. He blows at 8 to the bar. In boogie rhythm, can't blow a note less than the bass guitar's playing rhythm. He makes the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company B. He was some boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. And when he plays boogie-woogie bugle, he was busy as a bee. And when he plays, he makes the company jump A to the bar. He's the boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. A root, a toot, a tootly out a toot, he blows it A to the bar. He can't blow a note if bass and guitar isn't with him. And the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. He puts the boys to sleep with boogie every night and wakes them up the same way in the early bright. They clap their hands and step their feet because they know how he plays, and someone gives him a beat. He really breaks it up when he plays reveille. He's the boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. Okay, let's see what we're off to now. Button Up Your Overcoat from 1929. There's a little explanation down here at the bottom that this song had the boop boop ba doop that Helen Kane did. She made that famous, and when the Betty Boop character came out, she and her manager sued Betty Boop, or sued the studio, and she lost. First of all, they said saying boop boop ba doop in a baby girl voice was not unique enough, and then secondly, Helen Kane herself likely stole it from Baby Esther, who was a stage performer in Chicago. So if you ever want to record anything for profit, for money, and you want to include a boop boop ba doop in a Betty Boop type voice, you're free to do so. The courts have already weighed in on that. Lots of different verses, lots of different combinations of words for this song. I've chosen these particular words. I don't know that they're the exact original ones. These are the ones I like, and these are the ones I've chosen. So you're free to use whatever version of words you want, except, of course, for today. Button up your overcoat when the wind is free. Take good care of yourself, you belong to me. Eat an apple every day, get to bed by 3. Take good care of yourself, you belong to me. Be careful crossing streets, ooh. Don't eat meat, ooh. Cut out sweets, ooh. You get a pain of ruining your tum-tum. Wear your flannel underwear when you climb a tree. Take good care of yourself, you belong to me. Boop boop ba doo. Button up your overcoat when the wind is free. Take good care of yourself, you belong to me. When you sass a traffic cop, use diplomacy. Take good care of yourself, you belong to me. Beware of frozen funds, ooh. Stocks and bonds, ooh. Dockside thugs, ooh. You get a pain of ruining your bankroll. Keep the spoon out of your cup when you're drinking tea. Take good care of yourself, you belong to me. Don't sit on hornets' tails, ooh, or on nails, ooh, or third rails, ooh. You get a pain of ruining your tum-tum. Keep away from bootleg hooch when you're on a spree. Take good care of yourself, you belong to me. All right, a ukulele classic. Button up your overcoat. Okay, now I mentioned we had some that, well, you might not associate with Tin Pan Alley, but in fact, they were recorded in New York. Don't Ease Me In is from 1911, Henry Ragtime Texas Thomas. And the next song is another Ragtime Texas Thomas song as well. Well, he was a blues man, certainly not a Tin Pan Alley figure, but Vocalion Records was a New York company, and they would bring these artists to New York to record. So certainly fits within the Tin Pan Alley genre in that sense. And this song was, covered most notably by the Grateful Dead. Don't ease, don't ease, don't ease me in. I've been on that long around the corner, talking to Miss Brown. When I turned around, sweet mama, she was way across town. So I'm walking down the street with the dollar in my hand. I've been looking for a woman, sweet mama, ain't got no man. Don't ease me in. I've been all night long coming home, don't ease me in. The girl I love, she's sweet and true, and the dress she wears, sweet mama, it's pink and blue. She brings me coffee, she brings me tea, she brings about every damn thing but the jailhouse keys. Don't ease me in. I've been all night long coming home, don't ease me in. One more. Don't ease me in. I've been all night long coming home, don't ease me in. Now, if you go to YouTube, you can find a period recording from Henry Thomas. I think it was recorded in the late 20s. It's not clear when he died. He kind of just disappeared. But his words are quite different than these, and it's also great just to hear him performing the song. So here's another song, Fish and Blues, from Henry Thomas. And not sure when this song was written, probably around the same time, somewhere 1910, 1915, somewhere in there, most likely. Bet you're going fishing all of the time, baby, going fishing too. Bet your life your sweet wife will catch more fish than you. Many fish bites if you got good bait. Here's a little tip I would like to relay. Many fish bites if you got good bait. I'm a-going fishing, yes, I'm a-going fishing, and my baby going fishing too. I went on down to my favorite fishing hole, baby grabbed me a pole and a line. Throw my pole and caught a 9-pound catfish, you know I brought him home for supper time. Proving any fish bites if you got good bait. Here's a little tip I would like to relay. Many fish bite if you got good bait. I'm a-going fishing, yeah, I'm a-going fishing, and my baby going fishing too. Baby brother about to run me out of my mind, saying, can I go fishing with you? I took him on down to the fishing hole. Now what do you think that he did do? He pulled a great big fish out the bottom of the pond. Now he laughed and he jumped 'cause he was real gone. Many fish bites if you got good bait. I'm a-going fishing, yes, I'm a-going fishing, and my baby going fishing too. Put him in the pot, baby, put him in the pan, only cook until he's nice and brown. Make a batch of buttermilk or cakes, mama, and you chew them things and you chop them down, saying any fish bites if you got good bait. Here's a little tip I would like to relate. Many fish bites if you got good bait. I'm a-going fishing, I'm a-going fishing, and my baby going fishing too. First, bet you're going fishing all of the time, baby going fishing too. Bet your life your sweet wife will catch more fish than you. Many fish bites if you got good bait. Here's a little tip I would like to relate. Many fish bites if you got good bait. I'm a-going fishing, yes, I'm a-going fishing, and my baby going fishing too. All right, a couple of tunes by Henry Thomas. And now we've got about 3 songs left, and this song goes back to 1895, so technically not within that 1900 to 1950 favored by the Tin Pan Alley face Facebook group. I hope I'll be forgiven for including this song from 1895. But it's such a great song. I only learned it a few days ago, so not beer. We'll have to see what happens. It's a waltz, by the way. Now I won't sing of sherbet or water, for sherbet with beer will not rhyme. The working man can't afford champagne. It's a bit more than 5 cents a time. So I'll sing you a song of a gargle that I love so dear. I allude to that grand institution, that beautiful tonic called beer, 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 glorious beer. Fill yourselves right up to here. Drink a good deal of it, make a good meal of it, stick to your old-fashioned beer. Don't be afraid of it, drink till you're made of it. Now all together a cheer. Up with the sail of it, down with the pail of it, glorious, glorious beer. It's the daddy of all lubricators, and the best thing there is for your neck. Can be used as a gargle or lotion by persons of every sect. Now we know who the goddess of wine was, but was there a goddess of beer? If so, let us drink to her health, boys, and wish that we just got her here. Beer, beer, glorious beer, fill yourselves right up to here. Drink a good deal of it, make a good meal of it, stick to your old-fashioned beer. Don't be afraid of it, drink till you're made of it. Now all together a cheer. Up with the sail of it, down with the pail of it, glorious, glorious beer. So up with brandies and sodas, but down with the beer. It's good for you when you are hungry. You can eat it without any fear. So sip up the beer while you're able. Of 4 half, let's all have our fill. And I know you'll all join me in wishing good health to the company here. Everybody, beer, beer, glorious beer. Fill yourselves right up to here. Drink a good deal of it, make a good meal of it, stick to your old-fashioned beer. Don't be afraid of it, drink till you're made of it. Now all together a cheer. Up with the sail of it, down with the pail of it, glorious, glorious beer. It was a lot of fun. Great version on YouTube with a men's a cappella chorus singing it in a bar for their supper. As usual, if you go to my Uke Jams webpage to look for this song, there will be a link to that YouTube performance right there. So you don't have to go searching for one that matches mostly the song. These are the original lyrics from the sheet music. The version on YouTube is a little bit different, but it's hard to find a lot of recordings of this song. It's pretty obscure, but I think it's a lot of fun. A little bit of a few historical tidbits there. We've got pail, because beer used to be, we go to breweries now, we can take a growler, a glass pitcher, and they'll fill it for us, and they call that a growler. In the late 1800s, you could go buy beer at the tavern and take it home, and they put it in a pail, galvanized pail. There's some suggestion that the lid on the pail would burp the carbonation out as you were walking along, and that led to the term growler. It's not clear that that's true, but it makes a fun story. All right, 2 more songs to go. Heart and Soul classic, 1939. doesn't need much introduction. You'll notice we've got two minor chords here. The 50s progression that we're all familiar with only has one minor chord, so it actually did change a little bit from the original big hit that used this chord progression, Heart and Soul. Another fun thing I like to say, this song is great for people who are a little bit more than beginner and they're starting to expand their chord vocabulary, because if you look at this bridge here, we've got an A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We've got every letter in the alphabet here, so makes for great learning, particularly if you keep changing the key of the song and reprint it out and force people to, not force them. I always find it easier to learn chords in the context of a song than just to try to memorize one particular configuration. All right, enough of that. Heart and Soul. I fell in love with you, heart and soul, the way a fool would do madly, because you held me tight and stole a kiss in the night, heart and soul. I begged to be adored, lost control, and tumbled overboard gladly. That magic night we kissed, there in the moon mist. But your lips were thrilling, much too thrilling. Never before a man so strangely willing. But now I see what one embrace can do. Look at me, it's got me loving you madly. That little kiss you stole held on my heart and soul. Ba-dum, 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 boom, ba-dum, 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 heart and soul. I fell in love with you, heart and soul, the way a fool would do madly, because you held me tight and stole a kiss in the night, heart and soul. I begged to be adored, lost control, and stumbled overboard madly. That magic night we kissed, there in the moon mist. Oh, but your lips were thrilling, much too thrilling. Never before a man so strangely willing. But now I see what one embrace can do. Look at me, it's got me loving you madly. That little kiss you stole held on my heart and ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. All right, Heart and Soul. We've got one last song. Another real fun song, 1925. How Could Red Riding Hood? I hope you have the opportunity to join us again next time. This is jam number 6, so there are 5 others available on YouTube. You can subscribe to me on YouTube. You can follow the Facebook page for Uke Jams, and you'll be notified of when new jams are available or when new song charts are available. I try to get 3 or 4 out every week or 2. Depends. Sometimes they come out in bunches. Sometimes you can go 2 or 3 weeks without any new song charts. But if you follow on Uke Jams on Facebook, you'll be notified whenever there's any new song charts available. So here we go. When we were young, but old enough for us to understand, we all believed in fairies and the folks in fairyland. But the modern child is running wild and wants to know too much. He's never understood about Red Riding Hood. How could Red Riding Hood have been so very good and still keep the wolf from the door? and mother, they say she had none. So where in the world did that money come from? Please let me ask it. Who filled her basket? The storybooks, they never tell. Now they say she found a great big wolf in Granny's bed, and he had a great big sunbonnet pulled down over his head. But you know and I know what she must have found instead. How could Red Riding Hood have been so very good and still keep the wolf from the door? How could Red Riding Hood have been so very good and still keep the wolf from the door? Why was she dressed up in her bright flaming red, unless she intended to knock someone dead? Why did she ramble? She knew it was a gamble. She was out in the woods for no good. Now they say she was a maid, most discreet. She never picked up strange men out on the street. But you know and I know even sweet girls must eat. How could Red Riding Hood have been so very good and still keep the wolf from the door? One more. How could Red Riding Hood have been so very good and still keep the wolf from the door? Father and mother, they say she had none. So where in the world did that money come from? Please let me ask it. Who filled her basket? The storybooks, they never tell. Now they say she had a head full of curls. She was the nicest of all the nice girls. But you know and I know what girls do for pearls. How could Red Riding Hood have been so very good and still keep the wolf from the door? All right, from 1925, that was How Could Red Riding Hood. Until next time, this is Leonard Coffer for Uke Jams. Stay healthy.